उदी परम पूजने परम वंदने माँ आशुतोष शामली जी की जय। उदी परम पूजने परम श्रद्धेय सर श्री बाबा आशुतोष शामली महाराज जी की जय। उदी सर श्री आशुतोष महाराज जी की जय। सच्चे दरबार की जय। Welcome, brothers and sisters, to this evening spiritual discourse here at Lanasha. I'd firstly like to say that I would like to pay my highest respects and my highest regards into the divine lotus feet of Her Holiness Ma Ashutosh Ji, His Holiness Baba Ashutosh Maharaj Ji, and His Holiness Ashutosh Gurman. In the Bible, in John 1:1, it says, "In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God." So when John, one of Jesus' 12 apostles, wrote this, what did he really mean? We know from our reads in our scriptures, and in the Upanishad, it says that it alone was at the beginning. What the Upanishads and our scriptures allude to, that at the beginning, there is just Brahma. There is just Brahma. So what is this Brahma? What is it that John was alluding to and guiding us on? Well, Brahman is formless, is boundless, is infinite. And we know Brahman by a range of different names, whether we say God, supreme consciousness, some refer to it as being. So, Brahman is that omnipresent boundless. However, the thing is that we cannot perceive Brahman with our sensory organs. It's not something that's conceivably possible. So how can we perceive Brahman? Well, we all here are very lucky to know that when you meet a Purnat Sadguru, a perfect master, they can awaken your third eye, and they can give you a practical experience where you can see and experience Brahman within. So, it is possible to know Brahman. Is it possible to perceive Brahman? But the thing is that in this world, we cannot use any words to describe it. Giving any word, any quality to Brahman is limiting it and binding it to that word, which we cannot do. So, in a sense, it's not something that we can really say or describe. Kabir says, "Koti naam sansar mein tat mukh na hoy, adi naam jo gup jape vina bhuji koi." What Kabir is explaining is that we in this world refer to God in a range of different names. However, we cannot find salvation from that. It is the Adi name, which is secret, that is within us, that we can reach that salvation that only a perfect master can awaken up within us. And we are very lucky to know that the perfect master who can awaken that Adi name, that divine name, the true name of Brahman, the true name of God, is Her Holiness Ma Ashutosh Ji, His Holiness Baba Ashutosh Ji, and His Holiness Ashutosh Gurman. So we're very lucky that we've experienced that. Because when John was referring to the word in the Bible, that word is that Adi name. But as we cannot describe Brahman in words, we cannot say that divine name with our mouth. Kabir says, "Sadguru aisa kijiye, Sadguru aisa kijiye, bade nishane jo, Sumiran aisa kijiye, ji bhule na ho." So do that supreme Sumiran that doesn't require you to use your mouth or to use your lips. So, as I was saying, we are very lucky that all of us here today have experienced Brahman. That Adi name, that divine name, has been awakened within us, within each one of our breath. Because in the spiritual path, we find that those who understand Simran, surrounded by satsang ever since I was born. And I've met so many people on this journey that would attend satsang, attend spiritual discourses, but you'd see no changes in their behaviour. And satsang is an incredibly powerful thing, so how is it that you can see no changes? Why? Because they're not doing their sadhana Sumiran. The four agya that Guru gives us, sadhana Sumiran, seva, satsang, guru darshan, the four are linked. We need a balance of those four. So in doing so, what it means is then that we can understand what Sumiran is, understand the power of it, and it can help lead us to achieving our goal of Ishvara Bhakti, becoming one with that Supreme. A disciple had once asked Ashutosh Bhagwanji, had asked that why is it that so many people come into the spiritual path? That they come and they're very enthusiastic, but they leave. They don't reach the end, they don't achieve the goal. Mataji had explained that they don't tie themselves to names. They don't stick to those regulations. They do not, their minds are not still. They did not do their sin. Hence, when any obstacle came, they left, and they left the detracted from this path. So, the thing is that understanding our Sumiran is quintessential for us to progress. If a sadhak looks at their life and then he's realised that there hasn't been any changes since before they came into sannyas and after, what he will find is that when he sat on sadhana, at those times, he would focus on the Adi name, he would focus on Sumiran, but what would end up happening was that as soon as he'd wake up from sadhana, his mind would run wild. And he began making new karma, because they say you should keep an eye on the company you keep. So what the sadhak then realizes is that because of his environment, because of the people he's around, because he wasn't doing Sumiran 24/7 at all times, he started creating new karma. So while he was sitting on sadhana, he was destroying that heavy karma from past lives and everything. But whenever he'd wake up from sadhana, because he wasn't doing his Sumiran, he created new karma. And that's what made him fall off of this path. So, in a sense, how can we make sure that this doesn't happen to us? In the Bible, in Micah 7:7, it says there is power in persistent prayer. That we can pray persistently to be able to continuously focus on the Adi name. Because the thing is that our perfect master, Ma Bhavati Malati, they want us to reach that ultimate goal. Because they know it's possible. They know that we are capable of doing so. Because Mataji had explained time and time again that don't let the fear of falling and getting hurt stop you on this path. Because I want to make you into a warrior. And it's something that Soshi Baba Ashtoshanu Mataji explained to me, that in this fight against your mind, against evil, against the devil, your strongest weapon, your most powerful weapon is your sadhana Sumiran. And why is that? Because no karma, no sanskar is more powerful than your Sumiran. So our Sumiran is able to alleviate us of our karma, is able to make it so that we don't make new karma that will retie us to this world, but frees us from this. So we need to look into this, we need to see what Sumiran is to really understand it. The easiest way of explaining it is that when our Sumiran, the Adi name exists within each one of our breaths. When we inhale and exhale, there's a vibration that happens. That vibration causes friction. That friction creates energy. And that energy we perceive in the form of light, and we see it internally. And that vibration, that friction starts from our Nabi Chakra. They say that majority of people never rise above that Nabi Chakra. But when you meet a perfect master, when you meet a golden circle, they pull you from your Nabi Chakra all the way to your crown chakra. So that vibration that happens within each one of the breaths, it pulls you up, and it means that your mind easily connects to it, and the mind starts to become clean. Modern science has even seen this and even showing this. That research has shown that in this body we have a gland called the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland has a lot of responsibilities. One of the things it does in some parts of the gland is it creates lustful and desired emotions within us. And so in order to keep that pituitary gland in check, we have an incredibly powerful gland within us called the pineal gland. And the pineal gland keeps those lustful emotions in check. How? By secreting melatonin. Research has found that in children, the pineal gland is very active, which means that melatonin is in really high levels. However, when a person reaches adolescence, the pineal gland's function decreases, melatonin production decreases, and then what ends up happening, those lustful desires start to awaken within us during our adolescence. But science has shown that if the pineal gland is reactivated, then we can conquer and control those lustful emotions. The thing is that in the pineal gland is where our third eye is. It's sometimes referred to as Shiv's eye. And it's there in a very subtle form. When a perfect master awakens that third eye within that pineal gland, then it re-puts a check on your lustful emotions and your desirable emotions. So the power of Sumiran is beginning to be investigated in modern science today. Because it begins to clear, when we focus on our Sumiran, it begins to clear our heavy governance as well. In the scriptures it says, Ina Pingala Aushushuna, Tine Abase Athai, Viri Sangam Taha, Parogi, Manu, Manjanu, Kare Tathai. And what this is saying is that in this divine land of Bharat, there is a point where the river Ganga, Yamuna, and Saraswati meet. But the river Saraswati is very subtle, it's very hard to see. But at that point they meet. In what the scriptures is saying is that this external cleaning by the waters of these rivers is not going to make us clean. We need to go internally to where the three meet. Ira, Bingla, or Shushmana. And Shushmana is very subtle. So when the three meet, at that point, our mind begins to become washed and clean. And by doing so, we begin to transform our mind. So the transformative power of Sumiran has also been really looked at in research. There's a study by Dr. Alan Watkins. And what he pertains to explain is how can we be brilliant every single day? And in his lectures and in his research, he talks and gives an example of an athlete, which I will lead to today. That if we want to be perfect every day, the first thing that we look at to changing or controlling is our behaviors. Will change the actions, the external actions that we take in order to perform at the top every single day. However, what ends up happening is just by controlling our behaviors doesn't necessarily mean that we are at the top performing each and every day. There is something that drives behaviors. And that's when we go a little bit more internal, go a little bit deeper, and we realize that it's our thoughts. As Dr. Alan Watkins says, it's our thoughts that drives our behaviors. Because the way in which we think affects how we behave. There is a saying by a Chinese philosopher called Lao Tzu, and he says that keep an eye on your thoughts because they become your words. Keep an eye on your words because they become your actions. Keep an eye on your work because that becomes your nature. Keep an eye on your nature because that becomes your habit. Watch your habit because that becomes your character. Keep an eye on your character because that's what life ideals are made of. So it's the power of thoughts and how that drives behavior. Also in modern science, they have created so much research and so much behavioral psychiatrical therapies based off of how thoughts drive behaviors and how behaviors drive thoughts. For the treatment of anxiety and depression, one of the main therapies that are given is called CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. The main core of that therapy is in order to treat things like anxiety and depression, if we change our thoughts, then that will change our behavioral reactions when we become anxious or depressed. And if we change our behaviors, then that will change our thinking pattern that makes us anxious or depressed. So there's a lot of research into this, but Dr. Alan Watkins goes a little bit deeper than that, goes a little bit further. He realizes is that there's something that affects how you think. And what is that? He found it's your feelings, how you're feeling. So whether we are negative or positive, that impacts how we think, which then in turn affects how we behave. We'll find and we'll have these practical experiences within our life that when we are positive and we start to think motivationally, we have motivational thoughts, we're more accepting of other ideas, then that translates into our behavior, and our behavior tends to have a positive effect. So he realizes that, okay, if you control your feelings, then you can control your thoughts, then you can control your behavior. Great. But there's something that drives feelings. And Dr. Alan Watkins says that it's your emotions. We think that emotions and feelings are similar, and they are tied, they are linked. However, emotions are your energy in motion. An example of this is, let's say, in your environment, it's cold. And in London, in the UK, especially in the winter, it gets really cold. The temperature changes, the atmosphere changes, it becomes very grey, rainy, etc. But that environment, your body receives those stimuluses, those signals. So it will be cold, your skin receptors will perceive that it is really cold. That sends an electrical signal through your nervous system to your brain, to your hippocampus, and then it will start making certain decisions and certain actions on how to combat this. And that energy, emotion, is then what drives our feelings, then drives our thoughts, then drives our behaviors. So Dr. Alan Watkins says, okay, this energy, emotion, but the thing that's deeper than that, the thing that controls our emotions, is our physiology. As the example I've given about the receptors, that's your physiology, that's your biological reactions. So in doing so, if you can control those electrical magnetic signals that go through your body, and if you gain control and mastery of that, then you can master your emotions, then you can master your feelings,
master your thoughts, and then that will translate to mastering your behavior so you can perform at your optimum every single day. Dr. Alan Hawkins explains that the biggest electrical outputter in your body is your heart, is your heartbeat, is your heart rate. And there is a way in which we can control that heart rate, in which we can gain that mastery over our body so we can perform at our top every single day. So we can be brilliant every single day. And he did that because he showed that in your heart rate, the maximum and the minimum we tend to translate, and we see it as your heart rate or your average beats per minute. And that's what we tend to focus on, but there is so much data in that frequency of the heart rate. I'll show you actually, I'll give you an example. I'll give you this. So this is what general heart rate will look like. Depends on different people based off of your physiology, etc. But that's what your heart rate will look like. It goes up and down, etc. But what ends up happening is that there's a range of different frequencies, how it starts from the bottom to the top, and the difference between these points. It's not very consistent. And because it's not very consistent between that,
we don't have control over it. But what Dr. Alan Hawkins says is a way in which we can change a heart rate from being like this to being more consistent. To being more consistent, being more averagely spaced, etc. Another way I can show this is just by a way of line. That the difference between these spaces is consistent. That we can control that aspect of our heart rate. We can't control how high and low, but we can control this spacing in between. Because what researchers showed that if they looked at your heartbeat, looked at this wave for 24 hours, they mapped it for 24 hours, they could determine when you can die. There is so much information and data within this set. But what Dr. Alan Watkins shows and proves through his studies is that when you experience any sort of stressful situation in your life, and your heart rate is very like this, it's very inconsistent with the highs and lows. What happens is when any stimulus comes that disturbs you in any way, then you will not make effective decisions. However, when your heart rate is more consistent, a bit more like this, any sort of stimulus that comes that may distract you won't have an impact on your decision-making skills. And how is that possible? Well, the way in which Dr. Alan Hawkins says that you can control this heart rate so that the consistency between the beats is even is by rhythmic breathing. He showed that if you, let's say, breathe in for 7 seconds and you breathe out for 7 seconds consistently, whether it's 7 seconds, 6 seconds, however, but there's a consistency there. Through that breath, you are able to control your heartbeat. And by controlling the biggest electrical magnetic outputter in your body, you gain a lot of physical control over your body. That control over your physiology, you gain control over your emotions, you gain control over your feelings, your thoughts, and then your behaviors, so you can perform at your best in each and every situation, in each and every day. Us as Brahmayanis here today, we are very well aware that we should be doing Sumiran 24/7 at all times. Because by doing Sumiran, we gain mastery over our body. In the scriptures it says, Tantil Mantir Surat Til. That when this body is still, then our mind can be still. Our mind can be still, then we can be still in that prakash, that divine light.
So how do we do this? We do this through singing. I was once asked what was the difference between dhyan and sadhana syndrome. And the easiest way I can describe this is dhyan is that Om Prakash, is that divine light, is the epitome, is our goal where we want to reach. And in an analogy sense of view, I can say that dhyan is your ceiling, is where you want to reach. But your sadhana is the stairs that will get you to it. Because through sadhana, what sadhana is your meditation, is when you are fighting your mind, you are fighting your body, and you are becoming still. And by becoming still, then we are able to fight these things. Because the thing is that saints say that if you first do not become, then what can you give to others? What can you do for others? So we first need to be the change we want to see in this world, right? So then it is, then how do we do this? I'll give you an example of a boat. The boat's goal is to reach the middle of the ocean. The boat begins traveling and traveling, and then the current comes and pushes it away. Does the boat stop? No, it keeps going. Keeps going and going and progressing, and then another big wave comes and pushes it right back. But does the boat stop? No, it keeps going. It keeps going, it keeps going, it keeps going to the point where it reaches its goal of reaching the middle of the ocean. And then it realizes that actually the ocean's really peaceful. There's no big waves, there's no obstacles, it's actually quite calm. Because the thing is that it's the same thing when we do our sadhana. We'll do our sadhana, we'll do our simran, we'll be focusing on that Adi name, and then a thought will come and push us back. But then that's when we have to fight and keep progressing. Then guidance and scar or our body, or in whatever way, will try and push us back and hinder us from doing so, or hinder us from progressing. But do we stop? No. We keep going. We keep pushing forward. And by pushing forward, then we reach that middle of the ocean and we experience Shanti. So it is possible for us to do this. It's possible for us to reach that epitome. Because the thing is that Guru has given us these good gifts, He's given us that access, given us that ability to hear the Adi name, to be able to focus on it and connect to it. Char Batare De Jag Janvi, Shiv Shakti Garvas Gare. That we are born with those char Batare. We are born with them. But we need to experience them by coming to meet with the perfect master who awakens them within us. So we can connect to that Shiv Shakti. Because there was this one time when Manaji was leaving with one of his bones. And what Manaji saw was that the children were playing with a water tank and they were wasting water. Manaji said to his Siradar, to his servants, that stop them from wasting that water. So the disciples had gone and stopped the children. And Manaji said that Guru ki tab prayog ho raha hai, Guru ki tab karcha ho raha hai, aur aap log ro rahe hain. Manaji was saying that the passenger was being wasted. How can you waste? So the thing is that Guru has given us those four pradhana. He's given us our Sumiran. And in each breath we take, when we're not focused on that divine name, we are wasting it. Think about the hurt and the pain that must cause Guru. They've given us the answers to all of our prayers through Him. And that we can achieve them, but while wasting our breath on other things, then instead of reaching salvation, we tend to fall. can we focus on Simran? How can we make it so that our Simran increases and we're consistently practicing? Well, the first way, as I mentioned earlier, is the power of persistent prayer. Praying that we can do Simran 24/7 at all times. But the other part of it is as well, I manage expenses really well. I'll give you an example of what happened. Sergio Ashbush had asked one of his disciples that I've given you Brahmagyan, I've awakened the Adi name within you. Do you know what my real form is? Do you know what my real group is? And then the disciple says, yes, you are the Adi name. You are the Purana Brahma. Then Mataji asks them, how is it that whenever anything happens to you in the day, how come it is that you forget me? How is it that you don't put me at top place? The other things seem to be more important than me. Mataji further explains that when you leave Simran, at that point you're not focusing on good. You're not connecting. And that if your jintan, if your analysis, and if your focus is, how can I always put my guru in top place? How can I make sure that I always put my guru first? That I always think of guru first. When that jintan, when you are doing that jintan, then naturally you start to focus on yourself more. And you start to give that top place to your guru. Because the thing is that, and your belief says, जब तक संजम साधना सब सिमरन की माही, कबीर जाने भक्त जन सिमरन सब कुछ नाही. That we can do all of this mantra jumping and this tapasya. We can do this, but nothing is as great, nothing is as powerful as that Simran. And only a true devotee knows this. So why don't we become those true devotees? Why don't we become the sannyasis, the devotees, the disciples that Her Holiness Maharaj Pujaji wishes us to be? So that we can achieve the goal of Ishwar Prapti in this lifetime. So we need to continuously focus on our Simran. We need to continuously connect with the Adi. I would like to leave my words here. If anything was useful, then it is all by Her Holiness Maharaj Pujaji's Kripa. Budi Param Pujne Param Bhavane Maharaj Pujaji ki Jai. Budi Param Pujne Param Sharveshwar Shri Ashutosh Bhagwan ji ki Jai. Budi Param Pujne Param Sharveshwar Shri Baba Ashutosh